Right now, the NASCAR world is not okay. And I say that with complete honesty because there is no other way to describe what the sport is going through at this very moment. Two stories. Two emotional gut punches landing at the exact same time. And together, they have turned what was supposed to be Coca-Cola's 600 weekend at Charlotte into something nobody in the garage, nobody in the grandstands, and nobody watching at home was even remotely prepared for. Welcome to NASCAR Unfiltered, where we do not sugarcoat it, we do not slow it down, and we do not look away. Let's get into it. The first story, and honestly, the one that still does not feel real no matter how many times you say it out loud, is the sudden and devastating passing of Kyle Busch at just 41 years old. NASCAR confirmed the news in a joint statement with Richard Childress Racing and the Busch family, and the reaction across the entire motorsport world was pure, immediate shock. Nobody had a warning. Nobody was ready. Nobody even had time to process before the tributes started flooding in from every corner of the sport. Here is what we know. Kyle Busch had been dealing with what his family described as a severe illness in the days leading up to Charlotte weekend. According to reports, on Wednesday he was found unresponsive inside a Chevrolet Racing simulator facility in Concord, North Carolina, and was rushed to a hospital. A 911 call that emerged later revealed he had been experiencing shortness of breath and was coughing up blood the day before he passed. His family subsequently released a statement confirming that severe pneumonia had progressed into sepsis, leading to rapid and overwhelming complications that took his life. He was 41 years old. He was still racing. He was still fighting. He was still Kyle Busch. And that is what makes this so incredibly hard to absorb, because this was not a retired legend from decades past. This was a man who was still strapping himself into a cup car every single Sunday. Just 11 days before all of this, Busch was on the radio during the Watkins Glen race asking for a doctor because the brutal G-forces and elevation changes of that New York road course were making his illness unbearable. He still finished 8th because that was Kyle Busch, relentless, competitive, refusing to give an inch no matter what the circumstances were. And then last weekend at Dover, he climbed into a truck for Spire Motorsports and won. Fans were starting to believe the momentum was finally shifting back his way after a tough stretch at RCR. He looked into the cameras after that victory and said, quote, "I guess I just remembered how to drive." That line hits completely differently now. And maybe the quote that hits hardest of all came right after that Dover win, when somebody asked him how many more races he wanted to win before hanging it up. Kyle Busch said, "You never know when the last one is going to be, so cherish them all." There are not many words in NASCAR history that will echo longer than those right now. The tributes that poured out of the garage were unlike anything we have seen in this sport in a very long time. Denny Hamlin said he absolutely could not comprehend the news. Brad Keselowski called it complete shock. Ricky Stenhouse talked about how racing against Kyle made every single driver on the grid better because Busch never gave you a single lap for free. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon. The legends came out immediately because Kyle Busch was one of their own. And Kurt Busch's friends in the garage made sure his family was being looked after from the very first moment. Now let's talk about what Kyle Busch actually built across his career, because these numbers need to be said out loud. 2 NASCAR Cup Series championships, 2015 and 2019, both with Joe Gibbs Racing. 63 Cup Series wins, 102 Xfinity Series victories, 69 Truck Series wins, a combined 234 victories across NASCAR's top 3 national series, the most in the entire history of the sport. That is not just Hall of Fame credentials. That is a level of dominance that may never be matched again. His journey was never a straight line either. Hendrick Motorsports released him early in his career to make room for Dale Earnhardt Jr., a lesser competitor, would have crumbled. Instead, Kyle Busch went to Joe Gibbs Racing and built the most decorated stats column NASCAR has ever seen. Then when sponsorship issues ended his JGR run after 2022, he moved to Richard Childress Racing and kept going, kept fighting, even when the wins were harder to find, even when critics said he had lost a step, even when Denny Hamlin said on his own podcast that fans expecting Busch to dominate regularly again were fooling themselves. Kyle heard that. At Kansas, while multiple laps down, he raced Hamlin hard and sent a message loud and clear. And then Dover happened, and now that whole chapter is frozen in time forever. The NASCAR world is mourning right now, and it is impossible not to think about Samantha Busch, about Brexton and Lennox, about a family that has been absolutely blindsided. Which brings us directly to the second story, because it flows straight out of this one, and honestly, it is a thing that made a lot of fans completely break down when they heard it. Richard Childress Racing announced that Austin Hill will step into drive at Charlotte this weekend, while the organization processes everything happening around them. But then came the announcement that nobody expected. RCR confirmed they are temporarily retiring the iconic number 8 car. Not permanently, not forever, but specifically, and this is a part that hits, they are holding it in reserve for Brexton Busch, Kyle's 11-year-old son, waiting for the day when Brexton is ready to carry that number at the NASCAR Cup Series level himself. RCR put it in plain terms in their statement. Kyle Busch was instrumental in designing that stylized number 8. It became synonymous with him, and no one, they said, can carry it forward to the level that he did. So the number 8 belongs to Brexton now, waiting for him. When the time comes, that is legacy, that is family, that is what this sport looks like when it gets everything right. And here is the thing that makes it even more emotional. Just days before his death, Kyle Busch posted on social media celebrating Brexton's 11th birthday, talking about how proud he was of his son both on and off the racetrack. Fans are going back to that post right now and reading it with entirely different eyes. Brexton has already been racing since he was 5 years old. He has already stacked up wins. And Kyle had openly talked about his dream of one day racing against Brexton in the Truck Series when his son turned 16. That dream is gone now, but the number 8 is waiting. And that means something. RCR will run the number 33 going forward, the same number they used for their part-time Cup entry in recent seasons. It is worth noting that when Dale Earnhardt passed away in 2001, RCR also suspended the number 3. The parallels are real, and the weight of this moment inside that organization is unlike anything they have faced since that day. Charlotte Motor Speedway this weekend is going to feel completely different. Every driver introduction, every garage walk, every onboard camera shot, every tribute graphic on the television broadcast. NASCAR fans are going to feel Kyle Busch's absence in a way that is almost impossible to put into words right now, because love him or hate him, and plenty of fans did both at different points over the years. Kyle Busch was impossible to ignore. He was loud. He was aggressive. He was brilliant. He was sometimes a villain, sometimes a hero, always a guy you could not take your eyes off of. If you watched NASCAR at any point over the last 2 decades, Kyle Busch was part of your Sundays. He was part of your race day conversations. He was part of the sport's identity in a way that very few drivers ever truly become. Rowdy was not just a nickname. It was a personality, a brand, a whole era of the sport wrapped into one person. And now the sport has to find a way to move forward without him. That is a reality sitting in front of NASCAR right now. A Charlotte weekend that was supposed to be about racing has become something much heavier, something much more human, something that reminds every single one of us why we love the sport in the first place, and just how much it can take from us without warning. Rest in peace, Kyle Busch. NASCAR Unfiltered will not forget you, and neither will the fans who made every single Sunday worth watching.